And President Xi would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help.
Trump's claim that China offered help on Iran collapses as Beijing skips any mention of the issue entirely. Xi's top diplomat responds to Trump with broad diplomatic language, avoiding any direct commitment on Iran. Wang Yi praises the talks, but on Iran, Beijing sticks to its familiar and unchanged position. Trump says she is ready to step in, yet China doesn't even acknowledge that assertion. Is Trump caught in a diplomatic embarrassment as she refuses to clean up America's Iran mess? China's official readout and top diplomat statements have raised questions about Donald Trump's claims on Iran, since Beijing's account omitted several details he publicly highlighted. On May 15, China's foreign minister described the Xi-Trump talks as fruitful and wide-ranging, framing the summit as a substantive engagement across many policy areas. Wang Yi said the two leaders spent nearly 9 hours in exchanges that combined formal talks, state banquets and working meetings, underscoring the visit's intensity. He emphasized a tone of mutual respect, a shared commitment to peace and a willingness to expand cooperation, language aimed at calming tensions and deepening ties. Wang also said both sides agreed to build a more constructive relationship of strategic stability, signaling an interest in steadier, calmer U.S.-China relations. However, China's official readout and Wang Yi himself made no mention of Iran's nuclear program, a notable omission given Trump's public statements on the subject. The readout likewise did not refer to any offer by Beijing to help resolve the Iran conflict, contradicting Trump's subsequent claims that she had offered assistance. That contrast stands in stark relief to Trump's assertion that she could influence Tehran on both uranium enrichment and the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Beijing instead reiterated its consistent position calling for dialogue and de-escalation, favoring diplomatic steps rather than pressure or coercive measures. On the Strait of Hormuz, China said reopening should depend on a sustained ceasefire, a conditional formulation that stops short of endorsing external enforcement actions.
And President Xi would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be of help. If I can be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open. He said, if I could be of any help whatsoever, I would like to help. This has been an incredible visit. I think a lot of good has come of it. We've made some fantastic trade deals, great for both countries. He's a man I respect greatly. Become really a friend. We've known each other now 11 years, almost 12 years. It's a long time. And we've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle. And the relationship is a very strong one. We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open. We're closing it now. I mean, they closed it, and we closed it on top of them. But we want the straits open, and we want them to get it ended because it's a crazy thing. They're a little bit crazy, and that's no good. Can't have it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Meanwhile, China's readout focused heavily on economic cooperation and trade expansion, reflecting Beijing's priority to lock in commercial gains from high-level visits. Both sides agreed to improve market access and set up new trade and investment mechanisms, pledging practical steps to deepen bilateral economic ties. Taiwan was characterized by Beijing as the most important issue in bilateral relations, a reminder of the core sensitivity that shapes China's approach to the United States. China urged Washington to adhere to the One China principle and existing agreements strictly, reiterating long-standing red lines in the relationship. On Ukraine, both sides said they want an early end to the war and committed to staying in contact, but offered no detailed roadmap or joint plan to advance that goal. Despite broad statements and mutual pledges, there was no sign in the readout of any new joint initiative or breakthrough on Iran, Hormuz, Taiwan, or other contentious issues. Hours after Xi Jinping's unusually open threat over Taiwan, the U.S. Secretary of State delivered a statement on the island, trying to project firmness even as the president stayed cautious. Marco Rubio outlined America's Taiwan policy right after Trump concluded his first day of talks with China, effectively filling the silence left by the president on this sensitive question. He made these remarks in an on-camera interview with NBC News in Beijing on May 14th, ensuring his message reached audiences in the United States, China, and Taiwan at the same time.
President Xi stressed to President Trump that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-U.S. relations. Talk to me about that moment when that was discussed.
Well, they certainly feel that way, and they always raise that issue, and we understand they raise that issue. From our perspective, any forced change in the status quo and the situation that's there now would be bad for both countries. One of the things the Chinese emphasize, which we agree, is strategic stability in our relationship, a constructive relationship, but also one that establishes strategic stability so that we don't have misunderstandings that could lead to broader conflict. And so we always reiterate the point. We hear them when they say this. We always respond by saying anything that would compel or force a change in what we have now would be problematic. And we would certainly, our policies on that have not changed. It's been pretty consistent across multiple presidential administrations and remains consistent now. U.S. policy on the issue of Taiwan is unchanged as of today and as of the meeting that we had here today. It was raised. They always raise it on their side. We always make clear our position and we move on to the other topics. We know where they stand and I think they know where we stand.
Do you think China wants to invade Taiwan?
Well, I think China's preference is probably to have Taiwan willingly, voluntarily join them. In a perfect world, what they would want is some vote or a referendum in Taiwan that agrees to fold in. I think that's what they would prefer. Ultimately, it's featured prominently in President Xi's mandate in the time he's been in office. He's made clear that what they call reunification, that's what they call it, is something that has to happen at some point. We think it would be a terrible mistake to force that through force or anything of that nature. There would be repercussions for that globally, not just from the United States. The pace of growth in the Chinese military over the last 10 years has no precedent, none. I mean, just what they've done with their Navy alone over the last, they've put billions and billions and billions of dollars in their system. So it's, you know, you look at it, I mean, it's hard to ignore how fast and how big. So I don't think it's just limited to Taiwan. I think they have ambitions to ultimately be able to project power globally the way the U.S. does now.
Rubio added that the issue of future U.S. arms sales to Taiwan did not feature prominently in the talks, suggesting the topic was handled cautiously, if at all, during the Beijing meetings.
Did President Xi request to President Trump not to sell weapons to Taiwan?
Well, that topic has been discussed in the past. It did not feature prominently in today's discussion. We know what their position on that is already. Remember, Congress plays a role in that process as well.
Ahead of the trip, Trump himself had said he would discuss U.S. arms sales to Taiwan with Xi Jinping, raising expectations that this contentious issue would be on the summit agenda. That pledge ran up against long-standing U.S. policy, which generally prohibits detailed Washington-Beijing negotiations on arms sales to Taiwan in order to preserve American flexibility. At the same time, Washington has been pressuring Taipei to significantly increase its own defense budget, insisting that Taiwan must spend more on its self-defense against Chinese pressure. The Taiwan issue emerged as a major point in talks that were otherwise dominated by the conflict involving Iran and the wider Middle East crisis. During their closed-door discussions, Xi warned Trump that U.S. support for Taiwan, if pushed too far, could lead to clashes and conflicts between Washington and Beijing. He reportedly went further, saying that if the Taiwan issue was mishandled, the United States and China could come into conflict, leaving little doubt about where China's red lines lie. Subsequently, the official White House readout on the summit appeared to skip any mention of Taiwan, adding to the sense that the topic was too sensitive to spell out publicly. Trump also seemed to dodge a question on Taiwan during his choreographed visit to the Temple of Heaven with Xi, reinforcing the impression that he did not want to publicly provoke Beijing on camera.
Did you talk about Taiwan?
Great place, great, incredible. China's beautiful.
At the same time, Taiwan declared that it would maintain close ties with the United States following Xi's threat, signaling that Taipei has no intention of backing away from its key security partner.